Thank you, is by RuPaul. You guys know RuPaul. Is there anyone who doesn't know? It's okay. Don't be shy. Like if I didn't watch the drag show, I probably wouldn't have known. But I want us to come back to the centering quote by RuPaul. We as gay people get to choose our family and the people we're around. Okay. So let's come back to this text now. The text here 20, we have these religious folks who know their stuff, and they're called Sadducees. And Sadducees were a sect of folks who did not believe in life after death. So they didn't believe in resurrection. And they're not leaning in towards Jesus, who's gained all this fame and followers. They're not leaning towards, to learn what it is that Jesus has to say, but they're trying to do a gotcha, kind of like a hypothetical question about this woman, and using a weird symbol of marriage it's just a question to really get at him. And I think Jesus could have played the game to look at a certain way amongst the people who are there to judge him and to call him out. But instead, Jesus doesn't take part in that. And notice what's happening here. Not the question, but notice who they're talking about. In the resurrection, whose wife? Whose wife will she be? It's about a woman, a voiceless character. She don't got name. Definitely not her story. And is it true that his story comes from his story? So it's not about her story. And it's really a way of controlling woman's identity right now. She is being defined by man to whom she belongs. In other words, who's going to claim her? Who's going to get to be able to own her? Whose property will she become? Right? Who's going to own her in heaven, in eternity? What a messed up question. Sorry, as a feminist here. Her worth, this woman's worth right now, and her role are distinctively tied to this legality. Is it not right? She doesn't even have her own agency. And Jesus doesn't say, aha, I see what you're doing here. Says, those who are considered worthy of taking part in the age to come will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They cannot die anymore. They're like angels. They're like God's children. In other words, resurrection people don't marry and are given in a marriage. In other words, the way you're thinking about human relationship is not what I'm thinking about. It's not about ownership. It's not about who belongs to whom. And it's not even about bloodlines. It's not about the rules who determines and who belongs to whom. And it's certainly not about continuing these earthly hierarchies. And this is me speaking here. The faith tradition that I was brought up in, they talked about, depending on how good deeds you do in earth, your home in heaven will equate to that. Did you not hear this? Like if you do really well, you have a gold heaven, a gold house built for you. If you do really, really well, maybe you'll have some kunzite, real, I'm trying to name a gemstone that's really rare besides diamond. But do you see what I mean? It's as if there's grades and hierarchy even in heaven, but no. And I don't think Jesus is really talking about life after death. I think he's talking about a way how we are to live in this moment. In Korea, there was a time when boys would be married off to older girls. And what's the logic behind that? The wives were responsible for raising. It's my culture, okay? But they really felt it was the woman's role to raise and produce a wonderful man of society. And so this question, even though we're like, huh? Even though it's hypothetical, you can ask, like, okay, so what would happen? Right? If that couple didn't work out and there's another guy, like what's going to happen? What is that? And so like I said, it's not about really life after death. It's about how we get to choose, and this is where I come back to Rule Paul's quote. We as gay people choose our family and people we're around. What if Jesus is telling us that we don't have to be bound by systems and legality that we have created? Maybe Jesus is saying, instead of waiting for heaven to open up and liberate us, we should take seriously Jesus' invitation to love one another here. It's especially powerful when we think about chosen family, the LGBTQ siblings, the people who are in diaspora, people who are brown, people who are indigenous. We don't have the luxury sometimes to have family who will take us. For many queer and trans folks, sometimes it's about lifestyle. It's about survival. When traditional roles and traditional systems exclude who belongs to whom, and your own family of origin cannot and will not affirm you for who you are, then we learn to create, right? We learn to create family that is rooted in love. Friends, I love the drag show. I do. Because in there, I hear the testimonies of the lived experience of the people who were told all their life, you don't fit. You're just a bit weird. You're odd. That's not how we do it. Okay, we love you, but when are you going to change? They heard that all their life. And they had to be closeted. And like what Sonia mentioned, we're all addicted to wanting people to love us. And so we sometimes sacrifice our own values so that she and he might not abandon me. Friends, at least for this community, I hope we can break the idea that God's blessing somehow is only tied to married couples, only through some traditional family, a line of genetics will be. No, I hope we can break open that. You belong to God. You belong in community. You belong, and you are not owned. You are not owned. You belong. Are you done with me now? This past week, I was at the bedside of Joy Estock. I only knew Joy because Joy's daughter, Beth Estock, has become one of my great mentors and friend, colleague, a minister in Joseph UMC right now. She calls saying, Anna, I think my mother is at her last stage of her life and I need you to be her pastor. So I went by her side, and let me tell you, she didn't want to go. And everyone knew she's a fighter. And I tell you, if you see the women in this family, Joy did a lot. I mean, these women are fierce, feisty, and so much love, right? Sometimes at ICU, it can be very chaos. A lot of unmet emotional things that come up and could be really, really ugly. But it was all about the memories. It was all about sharing how she allowed them to love, how she allowed them to be themselves in the best way that they can be. And we sang This Little Light of Mine all together. And she couldn't open her eyes, but she kept nodding. And as we prayed for her, we said, there is only love on the other side. Nothing to fear. There's no judgment. Why would God judge you? To what? To tell you that this is where you did wrong? Nuh-uh. Perhaps to show you where you could have loved. Friends, we have nothing to fear. If death is what scares us to death, know that on the other side, it doesn't end. It continues, and love will meet you. And Joyce did say something when we asked her, and it really made me want to tell her that she can go. She can be free. She's lived a beautiful, full 89 years. And we reassured her that her love will continue. And we told her to follow the light, and she peacefully passed away. And we were not mourning, but we felt her presence even more. Not trapped in this fragile body, but liberated, free, fired up, can see and go anywhere. The Sadducees couldn't imagine a world beyond legal structure. Jesus invites us to imagine a world rooted when we all belong. Because in the end, friends, resurrection isn't about escaping death. It's about choosing life. It's about right now. It's about living with one another and choosing to live with one another in love. So here we are. We are chosen, friends. We are not controlled. We don't even own you. I don't own you. But here, let us build a family not based on blood or ownership or to our pedestal of our denomination, but really based on love and belonging.